Good morning, everyone. This is the Tucson Hispanic Chamber. We are very pleased to start today's digital discussion. We are discussing the evolving business and public patterns we are seeing in response to COVID-19. We're excited to have as speakers on our panel today, Dr. Sabrina Helm from the University of Arizona. She is an associate professor in the Norton School of Family and Consumer Sciences. Welcome, Dr. Helm. And in agriculture and life sciences at the university. Wanted to make sure I got it all in. We are also pleased to have Victoria Rubio, SHRM/CP, Human Resources Manager in Comcast Mountain West Region. Welcome, Victoria. Thank you for joining us. And we also have Ernesto Carrizosa with Principal Creative Director of Movement Marketing. So nice panel. One of the things that brought us, hello everybody, one of the things that brought us together is we obviously all see things that are happening in our community, and these individuals are seeing it from very different perspectives, so we're excited to have them come speak to us. We're going to start with having them each introduce themselves and share a little bit about themselves. So Dr. Helm, would you like to go first?
Actually, no, I have the Safeway delivery van coming right now. My dogs are barking. Can please somebody else go first?
Of course, this is real world. So Victoria, would you like to talk first?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Victoria Rubio, HR Manager, as Isabel mentioned, for Comcast. I've been doing HR for about 14 years now. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Arizona. I've been doing HR for about 14 years. And I've been in multiple industries. I did a quick stint in aerospace through BE Aerospace when they were here in Tucson. Majority of my experience is between the cable and the hospitality industries, which are kind of two differing places. But I worked quite some time with Canyon Ranch Health Resorts here locally. And then with Comcast these last going on 3 years, I've been back with the company as well, and always focused on HR, focused on the people, focused on recruiting, retention, employee relations, managing, developing of leaders, training. So definitely the gamut in human resources over these few years that I've been in the industry. And of course, never a dull moment, you know, just when you think you've seen it all, something else happens and you learn from it. So constant learning journey, and really, really do enjoy, of course, what I do in HR.
Thank you, Victoria. Dr. Helm, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. The van is gone. So good morning, everybody. So I have been with the University of Arizona for, I guess, 11 years now. I have a background mainly in marketing. Yeah, and I'm particularly interested in understanding consumer behavior, but I've also done some studies with regard to employee engagement and psychological drivers of, you know, employee engagement and satisfaction, which comes in handy right now, and understanding that interface between you know, customers and particularly the retailing environment. I work in research as well. I've adopted a couple of research fields. I work on better understanding sustainable consumption patterns, and actually the connection between consumption and climate change. But I'm also interested in better understanding mental health effects of really literally the changing climate. And interestingly, what we experience right now with COVID-19 has some relevance in that context. Yeah, it's a different kind of crisis, but we also see consumer behavior adapting to that. Yeah, so I'm very interested in that. In terms of my background, so you may tell I am German. I have studied and lived in Germany most of my life. I came here about 11 years ago. And before that, I was also working at the university in Germany as a professor of strategic marketing.
Thank you, Dr. Ernesto.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ernesto Carrizosa. I am the founder and the principal creative director for Movement Marketing. We've been around for about 10 years now. And it's a grassroots company that you know, came out of little old Tucson, but we've now launched campaigns worldwide. We've been fortunate enough to be invited to councils such as Facebook Business Insight Council for helping their developers make the back end better, for their advertising platforms for, you know, mom and pop shops all the way up to corporate level. We did so by excelling extremely fast within their first few years of launching their advertising platforms, even before they acquired Instagram. So with having the opportunity of having major groups and you know, the type of ad spend necessary to really zero it down and not waste clients' money at all, and be able to focus on nailing down demographics, target marketing, you know, again, not wasting their pennies, or down to a penny. We were invited to sit on one of their panels, and that was one of our first accolades as a young company. Second one was we sit on Forbes Ad Agency Council, to where we help them with, you know, with anything to do with Q&As and tips. We've been published by Forbes many times over on you know, Q&As and articles on our industry specifically, which is digital marketing. So, you know, we started the company as a full service advertising agency, but, you know, not accidentally. I don't like to call it accidentally, because it was more of a passion that it fell through towards digital marketing. And now, you know, being considered experts in our field on digital marketing, not just on a local scale, but on a nationwide scale, on a global scale, we feel very fortunate to be in this position and to help, especially local, you know, local businesses advance. So we work with the University of Arizona many times over on many different programs, internship programs, experiential programs with Dr. Ackerley, who leads the marketing advertising program at Eller, which I graduated from. So, you know, to fast forward, we now have turned this into, you know, a very efficient and effective business, to where we can charge our clients less for corporate quality work, because we decentralized our operations to where we have people working in 4 different countries, and we don't have to have the fancy offices. We don't. That's the first thing we tell our clients. Been there, done that. We've had the fancy offices in Scottsdale. We've had the fancy offices here, and in reality, you know, I'd say, you know, out of those 6 years of having those types of offices, less than 10% of our clients actually came to visit us there. They always wanted us to visit them, because it was always more of, since we're in marketing, we want you to see what we're selling. We want you to see our product. We want you to see the operations, so you really get the gist of all of it. So, all in a nutshell, that's what we do. Again, you know, our teams work in 4 different countries. We have developers in SEO teams in India. We have designers and directors in Mexico and the United States. And we also have some, you know, a smaller team in Indonesia as well. And we continue to grow. We have partnerships also out of Argentina that make some of the best, you know, CGI commercials for some of the, you know, some of the largest names you can think of. So when somebody really asks, you know, a corporate client asks us for, Ernesto, can you do this type of commercial? Can you do this type of, you know, CGI? You know, I want to match, you know, most recently we had Arab radio and television contact us and say, hey, we're really familiar with Canal Plus, which is out of France, and my wife's family is French, so I was very familiar with Canal Plus, and I told them, of course we could, but to match that was a very substantial proposal. So that's still in negotiation and whatnot. So we've gone from, you know, literally, you know, boots on the ground, grassroots, all the way up to where we are, all the way up to where we are now.
Thank you, Ernesto.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so we're very excited to have these individuals here, and you know, there's no doubt that we are going through multiple experiences as a community. You know, and tied into the discussion today is discussing the human experience as well as technology and the patterns that we're seeing. And we're going to share the first question with the panel is, what should we watch for and anticipate as we continue to come up out of isolation? Doctor?
Sabrina, please. Well, what we see is constant change, right? I mean, in terms of COVID-19, we already, I mean, pretty much everybody knows we have not even reached probably peak here in Arizona, right? So we'll be facing a future where we'll have sort of like prolonged or intermittent periods of necessary social isolation. It's very unlikely that just by, you know, a government's decision to reopen the economy, that we'll just be moving ahead and now everything is going to pick up. It's most likely going to be very different. We see probably some trends in consumer behavior which will remain changed forever. Some consumer behaviors are adapted and may change again. There's a lot of variability, and businesses will have to constantly adapt and readapt. So we should not be preparing for a, you know, just now we're coasting towards a better future. We have to be very careful. We have to be very cognizant that this crisis is not over. We have to remain very vigilant and adaptive, and we need to consider, you know, what brings consumers back. I'm mainly talking about the retail perspective here, of course, yeah. But what makes consumers confident, who are currently driven in their behavior by fear and by the experience of isolation and the new adopted behaviors that came with that? How can we accommodate that? How can we accommodate that, you know, in the context of employees who have absolutely the same fears? How can we somehow recreate an experience of working together with consumers that will be positive instead of, you know, just fear driven? And so I think across the board, we will have to really rethink how business is done.
Thank you. Victoria, I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I had a couple of points on this one. And the first one was anticipating the change, you know, the need to stay flexible and adaptable and pay attention to what's going on out there, and to kind of take it a step further, you know, the safety, right? The safety aspect to help consumers and to help employees to have the confidence that we are giving them the best environment to work in, given the situations that are going on. So being knowledgeable in what the CDC is regulating, what the states and the local governments are regulating, super, super important to stay in tune with that and adapt. And how does that apply to your business? You know, setting clear expectations, setting those pretty consistently, constantly plus consistently, leading by example. You know, we've had situations where we've seen, you know, our leaders maybe aren't wearing the PPE that we've provided, and we're requiring our employees to do it. So leading by example is going to be so important in order for folks to understand the severity and the importance of what we're trying to achieve in each of these different markets that we serve, each of the different businesses. And along with the safety aspect, just really the overall health and well-being of individuals in general, and paying attention to our folks, you know, are they grieving? And everyone grieves and processes differently, right? Where there's a loss of normalcy, there's a loss of how consumers do consume different aspects of each of the businesses that we have in support. So how are we trying to not necessarily solve for that, but how are we supporting that in a sense? You know, are we giving folks the resources that they need from an employee perspective? Is there employee support groups? Is there local nonprofits that we can refer them to if that's not something we offer through our business? Those types of things. What are we offering them to help support some of the things they may be feeling and going through? Because it's a big change, and everyone processes things so differently. You know, the way I feel, the way you feel are definitely going to vary. So how are we making sure that we're staying apprised and paying attention to those things and really addressing them, versus just sweeping them off the rug or under the rug to say, oh, this is going to pass, they'll get over it. And maybe that's not going to be the case. So how well are we paying attention to those trends with our employees and our customers? And really trying to find, you know, one of the things that we've been trying to do with our company and our employees is help folks to find a routine. How can we help them to keep a routine, find the routine, incorporate movement and mindfulness into their days and into communications that we're giving them. Those are some of the things that we've tried to do as the situation has evolved, and things are constantly changing. So there's definitely been a lot of evolution, but those are some of the ideas we've come up with and tried to help our folks with.
Thank you, and that really ties in with what Sabrina shared about this is going to be a process. So that really connects the dots, and I like what you highlighted around really understanding that there's been a disruption and then there's going to be a response. So really understanding how do we start to navigate that. Very nice, thank you, Victoria. Ernesto, do you have anything to add?
Yes, actually. Thank you for both of your insights, because I mean my notes obviously show some crossovers and similarities into what I was going to interject here. As many of us know that there's so many scientific studies that show that COVID is obviously here forever, and there will be more spikes due to the lack of preparation for prevention and opening businesses too soon. In all honesty, we need to get rid of the conspiracy theory notions that take this and take this more seriously as a nation. We understand that closing down our economy has other severe and detrimental impacts, but we cannot choose money over lives. We are the most successful nation state in history, and the fact that we're less prepared than most nations worldwide is worrisome. We have the wealth, resources, and ability to survive and overcome these trying times, but we need to put these resources to better use by better leadership. Ties to marketing. Potential customers will be making buying decisions with pathos, obviously how they feel. If businesses are operating in a reactionary, not proactive, and fearful manner, that fear will spread and the buying opportunity will be lost. This would be a great time for businesses to look at their mission statements for guidance towards this proactive vision. Communication with customer base will be the number one way to empower potential customers to say yes to businesses, brands, products, and experience. So that's my 2 cents on that specific topic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Patterns. What patterns are we seeing surface? Sabrina?
In terms of consumer behavior, well, I mean, the obvious part, which is the technology-driven part, right? So the movement of moving your expenses and your spending patterns more towards delivery, curbside, e-commerce, and all that. And it's very likely that a lot of that is going to stay. And that's not only because of COVID-19. We have to be realistic about that as well. Yeah, we've seen a big change in how consumers interact with businesses, in particular in the retail environment, for a long time now. Yeah, it's been more than a decade that we see a transition from brick and mortar towards more, technologically driven businesses. And so that adaptation has been going on in the retail environment among businesses for quite a while, but now, of course, there's this slump, and that has clearly sped up. So COVID-19 basically has really sped up this transition that we probably would have seen happen anyways.
Okay.
Just over a longer period, and we have much more time to react and adapt to it. So unfortunately, that has become much more difficult. So that's certainly a trend. Another trend is, as the other panelists already mentioned, there's now more realization that health is an important value. Particularly in the retail environment, we were not all that much concerned about health. Right? Consumer health, it was sort of like a given. We never looked at a store as a venue for infection. Yeah. all of a sudden we are in this new realization that wherever people come together, there is a big issue. And it's not, we used to look at brick and mortar shopping as the experience that where people can interact, and that's actually a positive thing. That's what we try to build up, right? And now we see that given the health crisis, that may no longer be viable. So we now have to actually keep consumers out of our stores while still trying to make business. And that's most likely also going to be a trend, because as alluded to earlier, we'll be living with this not for months, but more likely for years. And we need to be prepared for similar kinds of events. So this is a transition that's also most likely going to stay, even if there is some sense of normalcy at some point, on whether you want to call it this new reality or whatever label you want to find for that. But there's going to be some sort of like resettling in this new kind of behavioral space for people. And so brick and mortar shopping is not going to be the same as before, and it's going to be difficult to find ways to give the value to consumers so that they have the trust to come back and spend more freely, because that's the other side of it, the trend of how consumers spend their money. Government can decide to reopen the economy. They're not reopening the purse for consumers. That's individual decision making. And we see that there are some consumers who are simply going to not be able to spend money for quite a while because they lost their jobs, they are on furlough and so forth. So whether they want or not, they will not be able to spend a lot of money unless it's on the typical items we like to talk about in this context a lot, which is just basically food and household products, right? Mm-hmm. And then there are those who choose not to spend because they have reprioritized what's important in life. And they may also have a very different outlook, and they are also the ones who have the ability to stay home and get home delivery and all these kind of things, and their patterns most likely are also changing in the long run. So again, adaptation and transition is certainly what's needed.
Victoria?
Yeah, along those same lines, it's really about looking at business through a different lens, and that constant adaptation, constant paying attention to what those trends are. I can say specifically for myself, before this, I preferred to go into stores and shop, and I didn't really care for the online shopping and having things delivered, even though it could be here in 2 days. I mean, I do love Amazon Prime, don't get me wrong, but I have definitely become more familiar with online shopping, the different venues that are out there for that I really didn't even realize that were out there. So how many more of us have actually gone and done that because we are not allowed, or we cannot go out and shop into, brick and mortar type stores. So definitely paying attention to those trends, seeing it in ourselves, seeing it in our customers, the people that you do support is going to be important. And to really keep that open mindset, that broad mindset, and the adaptable mindset to what makes sense for my business, what makes sense for the people that I employ, and how can I package this for them in terms of understanding and making sure, again, we're caring for the safety and well-being of both the customer, the business, and the employees that we have.
In engaging with small business, we track the feedback we're getting, and we saw a lot of businesses that were not prepared for what you just described of online services. This has probably been a big, aha for a lot of organizations, or just simply weren't at the capacity that they had hoped they could be in response to this. So what do you say to that? What would be some recommendations?
I would say definitely find some folks in the community that maybe have made it work. Reach out to your network, reach out to some folks to say, hey, this is maybe a struggle I'm having. This is a gap I'm identifying in my business. There's so many support mechanisms out there through the chamber itself, through a LinkedIn or through other venues, to really just partner up and say, hey, this is a gap for me. What have you all made work? Talking to your internet service providers and going back and saying, what types of services do you have to support the business that I'm running, and what are the capabilities, what are the costs if I want to transition to be a little bit more adaptable to the changing environments of the consumers that that we're servicing, but to, particular to the business we have. But I never want to downplay or underestimate the power of partnerships, networking, communication. That's going to be so key in these types of things, because we're all going through this together. We've seen so many commercials and slogans about it, but it's true. It is absolutely true. And folks have actually adapted and made it work. Reach out, find out what works for them, and see if, there's some things that may work for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we kind of set you up for this one, Ernesto. What are your thoughts here?
Oh. Sorry, let me unmute myself.
There you are.
That was excellent feedback. And to touch up on that, we've seen many patterns now as well, with research and with our clients themselves. One pattern within marketing has been reflected across almost all industries on a local and national scale, that many businesses have chosen to significantly roll back their advertising / marketing, with the exception of one of two outliers that have spent more than they were, only nearly as much as the lead competitor within their field. So these brands have actually captured greater market share with their industry, and they have had, than they have had before under normal circumstances. So they're building their customer fan base even more so during one of the most difficult times in recent history. The customers that they are getting during this time are predicted to be even more loyal than customers gained from before this pandemic, and more likely to favorably recommend the business or product to their peers. So it is very important, and as Victoria had mentioned, we've seen now people, even competitors, come together, and work together, because these are trying times, and a lot of people have given up and closed down shop. But in the past decade, and even prior to that, you hardly saw competitors come together and rejoice and say, we're all in this together. So, these patterns that are going to change the digital world, and have already changed the digital world before this pandemic hit. We've seen a spike now over 30% in digital use worldwide. Obviously, for a reason. People are stuck at home. People are having to order online. People are having to do shopping online. Not only that, their children have to do school online. Everything is now digital. So with that being said, I have more to follow up on these last two topics that'll kind of close out on what I mentioned.
Very good. Thank you. So our next topic is how employees and employers are responding to being called back to the workforce. Do you want to start us off on that, Victoria? I think, you don't mind?
I think Sabrina had a comment still on the last topic. Sabrina, go ahead.
Oh, thanks so much.
I missed it.
I wanted to add, with regard to the last question, for small local businesses, it's not like all the trends we see in terms of changing consumer behavior that are negative for small business. There are a couple of really positive ones, and we need to highlight those, because you really have to focus on what kind of value can you deliver to a consumer, right? And for quite a couple of years now, and probably even emphasized by the current crisis, we see that consumers, or those consumers who are still spending money, are more interested in more conscious spending, more sustainable products, locally sourced products, a big deal. So, and for small businesses, that could be a niche that's really, really valuable to occupy, because with the current crisis, we are focused on, home, family, our community, and that includes the locally owned businesses. If they can provide value in that sphere and make it accessible If people cannot go to your store, the store has to come to the people. It's just how that goes. And if you offer curbside pickup or whatever it may mean, or if you, enable just a very limited number of consumers to come to your stores, and you post on your windows, and you can call us, you can make appointments, whatever. You just got to be very flexible in the ways of how you can accommodate that more fearful customer, but know that you have the opportunity to provide product that is still sought after. May take a little bit of figuring out, may not be for everybody, but generally speaking, the smaller businesses are much more credible in that sphere than the huge ones. If you're thinking about locally sourced products, you're not necessarily thinking big chains. And they may have been somewhat better prepared to cope with the current crisis in terms of, safeguarding employees and putting in effect all these kinds of safety measures that are now necessary. But that's what everybody can learn. But what the product is that's still of appeal, small businesses can do that as well. And I think, just remember, it's not all bleak. There's a lot of opportunity in this as well.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Sabrina, I'm sorry, Victoria.
All right, so going back to how employees and employers are responding to being called back, is that where we're at?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So, really, it's about proceeding with caution and knowing what's around us, knowing what's out there. We're all processing this differently. So maybe we're not as, scared about this virus, and we don't want to use all the PPE, but maybe our employees and our customers are. So it's really taking that overall approach and really understanding what's going on out there, what are the statistics, what are the facts truly, and proceeding with caution. Folks are concerned about their health, their family's health. This isn't just about the business and the customers that we support. This has to do with the people that we employ and their families, and the spread of what could potentially happen. I mean, we've seen what's happened with some of the, Memorial Day weekend openings of bars and restaurants, and no concern really around some of the cautions that truly still need to be had. We don't have a vaccine. We don't have a cure. There's a lot of unpredictability, unfortunately, with this virus. So it's really about proceeding with caution and knowing, how are people feeling, of course, for one, what protections can we potentially put in place, and really making sure to regularly check in and listen to what folks are telling us, or how they're feeling, or paying attention to the trends that are out there. But overall, proceed with caution, proceed with the mindset that this potentially going to have a domino effect on making the right or the best decisions in the business as we're reopening and entering from a safety perspective. And one just kind of overall point to make, as you are reopening doors, as you're adhering to recognition, celebrating those small wins and recognizing that help is, maybe they're not the ones who are bought in, and so on and so forth. There's just protections in place you need to.
Thank you. Are we back?
May I add to that?
Yes, please.
The guidelines and recommendations for reopening businesses that come from the government are guidelines, right? But if you're a store owner, or if you let customers into your, closed rooms, building, they are not guidelines for you. They are mandatory, because consumers will not trust you if you do not adhere to those guidelines. Yeah, so do interpret them as rules. And they are there for a reason. They are there for the reason of, keeping customers and employees safe. There's no real safety in this at all. Yeah, but what you can do, you got to do. And even if those guidelines are formulated in the way as much as possible, yeah, follow these guidelines if you can. And there's also some, what I particularly worry about in this context. Yeah, I mean, we can follow all these guidelines and we can put those measures into place. But it can very well be, particularly in a retail environment, that customers do not adhere to those rules. And we are really setting up our employees for a lot of risk and failure because they don't know how to deal with that. And how can they? Yeah, we live in Arizona. There's interesting people living here, right? And they may be walking into a store and really posing a threat, not just from the public health perspective, but because of what the state allows in terms of carrying guns and all that kind of stuff. So you have to sit down with your employees and really figure out, I mean, sit down via Zoom, whatever. Yeah. But you really got to be very careful in how you communicate their responsibility in this particular context. Yeah, we see that in other states. We see that here as well. Businesses reopening means customers run into the businesses, and they will not adhere. Not all of them will adhere to the rules. And the unfortunate thing with this particular public health crisis is it only takes one, right, to really get everybody sick. So how can we prepare and enable our employees to deal with this? And do we play through these kind of scenarios? What are our options? And is it really worth it to put everybody in that kind of a risk?
Thank you.
Okay, should I follow up on the same topic?
Sure.
Okay, again, how employees are responding to being called back to the workforce. Have been relying on unemployment and in many cases getting paid more than what they made while they were back at work. So it's been difficult for our clients, our partners' clients, and this is on a nationwide scale. We need our workforce back in place in due time when things are safer and society is ready to get back to a normal. Because let's face it, we will never get back to how life was before this pandemic hit, because we have to be constantly prepared and more precautious with prevention, not just for COVID, but for many other pandemics we'll face in the future. And the
We're losing you,
employee
Ernesto.
numbers are record sway. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So ties to marketing. This crisis has removed much of the veil between the customer and the employee. Customers are recognizing that in this current economy, their dollars have more sway over a business and potentially reflect tacit approval of that business's business practices / response to COVID. As such, they are asking more questions about how employees are being treated, interpreted as a very strong indicator for how safe they will be when they purchase from their business or visit their business, and listening with a bigger heart before making a buying decision. As a reaction to this, marketing messaging has responded by stepping into humanizing their businesses themselves. The "we are all in this together" messages, emphasizing the importance of their employees, the heroes messages. So, again, it's a very weird and strange situation, but business has to get back to business. At the same time, we can't lose lives over it, because over 100,000 now have perished in the U.S. And this is not, influenza. This is not heart attacks. This is not something we've dealt with in the past ever before. But again, we can prepare for this by educating, the underserved, the less educated, and also businesses that don't have these resources, by empowering them with the knowledge of, hey, you need digital, you need curbside pickup, you need delivery. Who cares if it's going to cost you 10 to 30% to deliver through Grubhub, Postmates, all of that. Some part of that's branding, and another part of that, if you do it a certain way, you'll get charged less and still make money. So the point being is that you're still getting your name out there, you're still keeping in the green, you're not in the red. And businesses need to really, and client owners need to really focus on that negative aspect in their minds, that negative connotation of, oh no, I don't want to add delivery because they're going to charge me 20 to 30%. What does that leave me with after food costs, after this, after that? Less than 5% or 0%. But I tell them all the time, certain clients of ours have now prospered because they added these delivery services, and there's ways to do it by, if we add these services as far as Grubhub, Postmates, Uber Eats through their website, and we blast it on social media and just put the link up there to order through their website, they only get charged 10% instead of 20 to 35%. So there's education that needs to be put out there for business owners as far as this new digital world that we're living in, that's turned into, it's now turned full scale digital as we're doing now. We're having to hold this, this seminar, this meeting, via Zoom instead of, in a local space to where we can speak to people face to face and answer questions face to face.
So you've transitioned us, thank you, to the last point, which is the role of technology, in particular in small businesses, and the efforts of recovery that we can see in response to COVID. Who would like to take that?
I'll take it first if anybody doesn't mind.
Go ahead, Ernesto.
Okay. With the role of technology in small business efforts and recovery from COVID, the role of technology has played a major role in the survival of our economy as a whole. Whether it's ordering food from your favorite restaurants, when you're tired of cooking 3 times a day at home, several weeks straight, or ordering new clothes or necessities for your family, or even the change in business and how we approach daily work activities. Even the way your children attend school. So people are now realizing the power of digital more than ever and depending on it for pretty much everything they do daily, from work, again, to their kids' school, all the way to having to resort to using your cell phone. So many businesses can no longer afford to put these type of crucial investments to sit on the back burner anymore, or they will simply fall behind even faster because their competition is already or has already been investing in these digital mediums that have now surpassed all other traditional advertising in reference to ad spend by businesses and the usage by the average consumer. Numbers don't lie. The average person, and I've told you many times over, Isabel, when the average person spends a quarter of their day on their mobile phones and log into their social media channels 60 to 100 times per day, this holds more sway, even more so now that people are living quarantined and in fear. So a way to tie this into marketing, one of the most convenient circumstances within marketing is to have a captive audience and to know what that audience's interests are. Because of the pandemic, digital marketing has exactly that opportunity. This is the most ideal time to be communicative with your current and potential audience to express your business's mission statement and your new business mission statement, because things changed through all these marketing channels.
Thank you, Ernesto.
You're
Would
welcome.
any of the other panelists like to share? Sabrina?
Let's say something only to cooperative solutions is going to be important. If you're a local small business, the investment necessary to enable you to be, technologically out there with the other players is going to be probably too heavy to lift. But there are those, but as a network, that will enable you to actually reach out to consumers and get that transition, for instance, into the online world. What we're talking about currently in terms of technology are very different things, right? So there's a technology that we generally mean that has some customer experience element in it, or we talk about online shopping. So either you can create an e-commerce platform and there's your technology push. But if you talk about technology, particularly in the retail environment, we also talk about things such as geofencing and all these kind of beacon technology and all that recognizes consumers, so you get your data and all that. That was the kind of technology we talked about retail prior to COVID-19. It may actually now be much more simple. In terms of some new approach technology. Unless you're tying them into an app, for instance, for mobile, for your more convenient curbside delivery and all these kind of things. So these are not like the big kind of things that you need to invest in, but you need to find partners that enable you to carry the necessary investment load to be able to do so.
May I add to that?
Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I completely understand what she is saying. And, again, there's a lot of negative connotations and misconceptions on digital cost at an affordable price. You can launch $5 a day campaigns on social media that will reach 500 to 1,000 people a day. So that being said, 2 to 3 consumers out of that, that makes up for that budget. So it's more of short-term and long-term investments that people have to put into place that have become much more, not only effective, but as far as price-wise goes, they're more in the reach of the average consumer nowadays. And I get it, speaking from a retail world, or we deal with dozens of industries, even the Diocese of Southern Arizona. So to where we had to deal with this whole outbreak and messaging, 50,000 of their newsletter subscribers and update them on what to do, what not to do, holding online masses. Again, there's many industries that can still benefit whether they have the money or not. It's more of an investment. If they have the money to buy a $3,500 sign for the restaurant, they have the money to spend on $5 a day at least for social media, for just even branding purposes, for being in people's faces daily. And this is not just for me trying to pitch what I do. This is, you can go to anybody, as long as they're good, check the reviews, first and foremost. But, even freelancers, some freelancers will charge you dirt cheap to launch, a decent website on WordPress, or some even on Squarespace or Wix that you can work on yourself and add information to. But I think there's that negative connotation that still holds sway over many small businesses that I can't afford this, and that's simply not true.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments, Victoria, before we move to the Q&A? We want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah, just one quick comment to kind of piggyback what's already been said, but definitely look to your providers. Some of you may be involved with Comcast Business or through programs, that it doesn't hurt to call and ask those questions. Hey, how can I be helped out? There's also a series of educational webinars that a lot of service providers and folks that are trying to make sure that they are connecting with business and helping them to support with reopening and how to look at your business differently and those types of things. So definitely reach out to your service providers to see what they can definitely support you with and provide you in terms of resources.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. We have a question for the panel. This is from Leticia Ortiz. I work for the Groove 106, 109, and there's a big problem there with business. No websites to order online. Did I clarify that statement, Leti? So you're having trouble getting online orders? Okay, we may have lost her. We had another question here.
Letty.
Can I talk to you first?
Yes.
Very quick. The problem there on the south side, because I work for these 2 radio stations, and also because I guide a lot of people to these Zoom great information that they for business. They don't. I don't know if they don't have the time or they don't like to be on computers.
I understand.
But it's because I invite so many people for this Zoom conference, and also if I go or calling them, because I work from home right now, and I told them about if it's a restaurant, how you do your to-go orders to go, and they don't have it online. They don't have a website. People, they have to go to there or make a phone call and do those orders. But it's very, very sad, and I see a lot of these mom and pops Latinos businesses, they're gonna close. They thinking to close their business because they don't know what to do. But advertising, they don't have the money to advertising, and they don't like one of you say about they have to hire somebody to get the experience, and all these social media and all these new technology that we live in right now, and especially with to keep clients and employees safe of this pandemic. So it's a really I'm stressed because I got lots of friends, a lot of people that have been helping them for many years in advertising, because I come from all my life in advertising, TV, radio, Spanish, English, and I never see this how the mentality and how they work, and I feel like they try to find the help, but they don't let help because they don't know about this social media, and everything is going to be, and now is the new life. Everything is going to be like ordered by line, or go to your website, and everything is like that. And I don't know how we can help them to survive.
I have a suggestion. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. It says my video's on, but I don't see it either. But maybe because it's just so here's my suggestion. If you have probably older couple, I'll say older, probably my age, but make sure that they have kids that are on social media, or they have cousins or aunts or uncles or whatever. Help their family to jump in and help them out. Have the family get on social media and do something like play on the fact that they're not advanced. They're, they're authentic, and they're so authentic that they don't even own a computer. So that's why I'm out here helping them out. And really play that up, because people want authentic, they want locally owned, and You don't have to have internet access as long as somebody who does is saying, hey, here's the number. You call them and they're going to answer and they're going to be the ones that are going to cook your food. They're too busy cooking your food, making it homemade. You even think about getting on the computer. So that plays it off, that way it doesn't look like they're behind in the times. They're just so busy making sure that your food is awesome, they don't have time to get on the computer. So their family does it.
Comment from the panel? Thank you, Kim.
Sure.
Sabrina, I saw you
Yeah, I
shaking
think
your head. Go ahead.
some definitely support and lend maybe the rationale behind the importance and the fact that it's someone close to them, they'll maybe be more apt to understand and respect that advice. So I think that's a wonderful suggestion.
Wonderful. I know we're mindful of time, but we had a question at the very beginning from Candace. Candace, do you want to ask your question, please?
The question about getting workers or getting people in general oriented to the technological world, do you mean?
I believe so. Any suggestions regarding orienting workers who do not have a background in digital and toward these industries?
Yeah, I believe that was a question directed towards me, correct, Candace?
Yes. So just to give some background, I work with the International Rescue Committee, and we help refugees who have resettled here in Tucson to find jobs. And this is a current movement towards working in more of a digital world. And I want to try to prepare people for that so that they don't get left behind.
So, there are many ways to approach that. And it all depends on their experience level, whether it's 0 or whether, between on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 to 10. If it's none, or if they have, let's say, a 5 on their score of level of intelligence on digital, it would take a matter of just basically, there's so many tools on the internet, and many of these are provided by these mediums, such as Google, such as Facebook, such as Instagram, and I could go on and on. Google AdWords as well, if you can afford it. So, they can take those lessons, but at the same time, those are very textbook style lessons. They're not tried and true. This is why we were interviewed many times and invited to this Facebook Business Insight panel to give them information from the ground on boots on the ground per se. So in teaching them, I would recommend that you either let them know, hey, the digital world, you can Google a lot of things and just ask for it and look through forums that are credible at the same time. Some of these forums are directly through Google, directly through Facebook, directly through Instagram, and they'll give you a lot of insight from businesses that are small, medium, and corporate level. So with that being said, in the digital world and trying to teach an employee, it's a very hard thing to do, because if you specialize in making food or producing a certain type of product, your forte is in digital. You might, I've seen even on the corporate level, in-house teams not know, so we've gone in and consulted with them to teach them certain contracts that have lasted 6 months, a year, And after we've heard, their investment was through the roof because their internal teams knew what they were doing. They hired the right people instead of having one person that, semi knows how to or knows to post on Facebook. That's not to cost-effective agencies or freelancers um, that can help you in that aspect, because there are many, and are not tried and true, so part. And if you do find the true ones, you'll see the reviews, you'll see their accolades. Some of them set a board such as this, making an investment such as that is crucial. I mean, this is a lifelong investment. You can't just launch a campaign for 6 months and expect your business to flourish for the rest of its lifespan. This is an investment you have to continually make and have to put aside on a monthly basis, even when you're not doing well. So time after time, we tell our clients, and the ones that have listened have flourished and have actually done better during this pandemic as the ones to those that did not listen to us. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any final thoughts from our panel? We really appreciate you taking time with us to come and share perspectives, giving us a lot to think about. So, final thoughts, Sabrina.
Well, first off, thank you very much for having me and listening to what a consumer scientist has to say about all this. Use the locally available resources. There's a lot here in Tucson that can help you. Yeah, don't be shy reaching out. You can reach out obviously via the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, other institutions. You can reach out to the university, to the Ella School of Business. You can reach out to the retail program, which is not in Ella School of Business. You can reach out to me. Just do that and see, what help is available. This is difficult to navigate, and we like to say we're all in this together, but we come from very different angles, and we don't necessarily live through the same kind of reality and world, and so we have to be cognizant of that as well. We need to be compassionate, and we need to try and understand where everybody else is coming from. It's not going to be the same spot for everybody. Yeah, so this is interesting from a marketing perspective, because you really have to figure out where your consumer is coming from, what situation they're in, how you can make them feel comfortable again interacting with businesses, and you have to be very cognizant with regard to where your employees are coming from. I think a lot of hardship in this time is going to be on the shoulders of employees, and that's something we have to be very, very careful about.
Thank you. Victoria?
Yeah, thanks again. Really appreciate being able to be here and provide some information to you all. And one closing statement is just really, again, don't estimate the power of communication, collaboration. But another aspect of it, just in overall health and wellness, is that aspect of self-care, because you have a lot on your shoulders as a business owner or support to anybody. So really take some time for that mindfulness, that meditation, in the morning or in the afternoon, if you do like the make that you're taking some time for yourself to really reset and recenter and really be able to focus on what it is that you need to do going forward to adapt to the environments that we're working in now.
Thank you. Self-care. Great call out. Ernesto.
I am very humbled to have been part of this panel and with such talented people. Thank all of you. I myself have learned, off of your insight and every of all of the knowledge that was gained today, and the fact that we are able to help our community with these business insights to help not only keep their businesses open, but help realize their dreams of their businesses staying open and not having to. So kudos to all of you, and I hope to meet you all soon. And I look forward to the next Business Insights panel that we can all chime in on.
Thank you so much. Again, we thank you from the Tucson Hispanic Chamber for joining us this morning. We thank all our members and visitors that also joined in. We know there's a lot going on, and we appreciate you taking time to be with us. Again, thank you to our esteemed panel. We appreciate you being with us today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.